this is Jo from Math Tutor Me. Today we're doing some Pythagoras' theorem. Now Pythagoras' theorem is named after the man Pythagoras who invented this rule, who found this rule, that relates the three sides of a right-angled triangle. He found out that if you take the two shorter sides of a triangle and you square that length and you square that length and you add those two numbers together, that will be equal to the square of the third length, the longest side. And that is this formula here. C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. C is the longest side and the A and the B are the two shorter sides. Now the longest side has a special name. We call it the hypotenuse. The longest side is always straight across from the right angle, and it is called the hypotenuse. So remember that name. It's a special name that you'll be hearing a lot in this topic. And this is the formula that we're going to be using. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Now before I show you how to use the formula, we have some practice things here to help us remember how to find square roots of this is just on the calculator. We want to type in the square root of 76 and we want to find our answer correct to 2 decimal places. So on your calculator, find your square root button. For mine, it's right here, square root. And underneath, I'm going to type in 76 equals. Now to 2 decimal places, the 7 is the first decimal place, the 1 is the second decimal place, and after that I have a 7. So because I want to cut it off here after the 1, my next number is larger than 5, so I'll have to round this up to be 8.72 to 2 decimal places. Let's try that again for the second one. Type in the square root of 428 equals, okay, the 6 is the first decimal place, the 8 is the second decimal place. I want to cut it off after that. So I look at the next number. Again, because it is above 5, I will need to round this up to be a 9. 20.69 would be my answer to 2 decimal places. Alright, so now that you know how to do some square roots of numbers, let's look at how to use the Pythagoras' theorem. All the questions today, we're going to be finding the longest side, the one straight across from the right angle. So this is the C in the formula, and these numbers here are the A and the B. It doesn't matter which one is which. As long as the C is the hypotenuse, you can have those either way that you want. So I'm going to write the formula down. It's always a good idea to write formulas down when you're practicing to help you memorize them. So there's the formula. The hypotenuse for my question is called x, so I'm going to replace the C with an x, so it'll become x squared. A I have on the side that is number 7, so it's going to become 7 squared plus B, which is 8, so 8 squared. Then on the calculator, I need to work out what 7 squared plus 8 squared is. 7 squared plus 8 squared equals 113. But that is x squared is equal to 113. If I want to get x by itself, I need to get rid of the squared, which is when I need to square root the 113. So on the calculator, like we practiced before, the square root of 113 equals, and we're doing 2 decimal places, 10.63. The number after the 3 is a 0, so it doesn't round up. That is my answer. Now when you do these questions, you also need to look out for units. These sides were measured in centimetres, so my hypotenuse will also be in centimetres. So that's my answer. This side of this triangle is 10.63 centimetres long. Let's try it again. Let's do it again for this second triangle. Write down the formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. C is always the hypotenuse, so there's the right angle. This is the hypotenuse. The A and the B are the two shorter sides, A and B. Let's substitute those measurements into our formula. Again, I have called the hypotenuse x, so it'll be x squared equals, A is 6.3, so that will be squared, plus B, which is 4.8, squared. Use the calculator to work out what that is equal to. 6.3 squared plus 4.8 squared equals 62.73. Now don't forget, we have to find out what just x is. We don't want x squared as our answer, we want x. So I have to get rid of the squared, which is when you square root this number, 62.73. Okay, 2 decimal places, 7.92. It's a 0, so again it stays the 2. My units are centimetres. So my hypotenuse here is 7.92 centimetres long. Great, hopefully you're following along with that well so far. Let's try a few questions that are a little bit different. This question, it doesn't really look like a triangle at the moment, but we want to find the value of x here correct to 1 decimal place. We need to find a triangle, a right angle triangle, to be able to use Pythagoras' theorem. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break this shape up and draw a dotted line across there so that I can see a rectangle and there's a triangle sitting on top. So because it's a rectangle, if this is 28, then this one up here is going to be 28 meters. But this triangle here doesn't really look like a right angle, and we have to have a right angle triangle. So what we can do, because it's an isosceles triangle, if you cut an isosceles triangle right down the middle, it will make a right angle here, and it will cut this side on the bottom here exactly in half. So this side here will become, I'll draw an arrow coming in here, it will become 14 meters. This height here, it's over on the side, is 11 meters. So here's my little right angle triangle. I have the two shorter sides and I'm trying to find a hypotenuse. So now we can use our Pythagoras' theorem formula. Here it is, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So c is the hypotenuse, which in this case is x squared equals, I'm going to call a the 11, so 11 squared plus 14 squared. Alright, use the calculator. 11 squared plus 14 squared equals, so x squared equals 317. And to find x by itself, I will need to square root 317. Now, just to be different, this question said 1 decimal place. So square root of that number, 17.8 meters to 1 decimal place. Okay, question 4. 2 roads meet at right angles. A person walks 3 kilometers along one road, while another person walks 5 kilometers along the other. How far apart are the people now? Well, we don't know what direction they're walking, but we will say that the first person is going 3 kilometers in that direction. The second person is going 5 kilometers. We know it has to be at right angles, so we will say this way. So 5 kilometers. Okay, how far apart are the people? That's that distance there that we want to know. We could call it d for distance, or you could call it x, whatever you like. And that's going to be our right angle there. So there's a right angle triangle, and we can use Pythagoras' theorem. write the formula down. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. And substitute in our numbers. Our hypotenuse I've called D, so we're going to call that D for distance squared equals, I'm going to call the A 3, so 3 squared, and that makes B 5, so 5 squared. Let's use the calculator to find out what that's equal to. 3 squared plus 5 squared equals 34. And to get the D by itself, to get rid of that square there, we square root 34. Okay, this question didn't tell us where to round it. So we type that in. Let's do 1 decimal place. So 5.8 would be our answer, 5.8. We need some units. The units were kilometres. So they are 5.8 kilometres apart. Okay. Time for you to have a practice. See how you go. So to help you out, to remind you, here is our formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. And here is 4 questions for you to have a try of. So pause the video, have a try of the questions, and then we'll go through the answers together. Alright, let's do the answers. Question 1. Label the hypotenuse on the triangle below. So wherever the right angle is, the hypotenuse is always directly across from it. It is the longest side. It's this one here. So this is the hypotenuse. Tricky word to spell. Okay, question 2. Find the value of x, correct 2 decimal places in this question. So they're my 2 shorter sides. Here's my hypotenuse. So Pythagoras' theorem says that c squared equals a squared plus b squared. My hypotenuse is x, so we have x squared equals, let's call 12 the a, 12 squared plus the other side, 19 squared. Then we use our calculator to find what that is. 12 squared plus 19 squared equals 505. That's x squared. We want just x, so we must square root 505. X is equal to square root of 505. We want 2 decimal places, so we have 22.47 is 2 decimal places. Because it's a 2, we can just cut it off there at 47. Our units are meters. Let's have a look at question 3. We want to find the value of x, correct to 1 decimal place. First of all, we need to make a right angle triangle. To do that, we want to try and have some right angles in there somewhere. So it's always best to try and cut things into rectangles and right angle triangles. Don't go like that, because this one would be a right angle triangle, but this triangle created here wouldn't be. So it'd be best if we go straight across here, cutting this into a rectangle there, with a little right angle triangle here sitting on the top. Now because it's a rectangle, if this is 15, this side here is going to be 15 centimeters. This 9 centimeters and 12 centimeters, if I subtract those 2 sides there, 12 minus 9 is 3, that would be the length of this little side here. So I have a right angle triangle, I've found my 2 shorter sides, and I want to find the hypotenuse. So let's write our formula. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. Okay, substitute in, my hypotenuse is x, so x squared equals, a I'll call 3 squared plus 15 squared. Use the calculator to find out what that's equal to. 3 squared plus 15 squared equals 234. Now we need to get rid of the squared. Opposite of squaring is to square root 234. And we want one decimal place. So 15.2, but the number after the 2 is a 9, so I'm going to have to round that up to be 15.3 centimeters. One last question. How are you going so far? Let's have a look. The foot of a ladder is 15 meters from a wall. If the ladder reaches 3.4 meters up the wall, how long is the ladder correct to one decimal place? Right, we have no diagram here, so we need to draw the diagram ourselves. Now you can be as artistic as you like here. I'm not the best drawer in the world, but this can be my wall. Here is a wall, and I have a ladder, so here's the ground coming out, and I have a ladder resting on the wall. There's a ladder, look at that, a ladder. Now the foot of the ladder is 1.5 meters from the wall, so that's that space there, 1.5 meters. The ladder reaches 3.4 meters up the wall. That's that side there. How long is the ladder correct to one decimal place? Well, I'm going to call the ladder L. L for ladder makes sense. That's the side we want to find. Let's put our formula down. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. My hypotenuse is L, so L squared equals, A can be 3.4 squared plus B is 1.5 squared. Type that into the calculator. 3.4 squared plus 1.5 squared equals 13.81. Then to get rid of the squared on the L, I will need to square root 13.81, and we want one decimal place. 3.7, the next number is a 1, so we'll be able to cut that off. The ladder is equal to 3.7 meters long. Right. Hopefully you went well with those questions. Remember to keep practicing, find as many questions as you can, and practice, practice, practice. And I'll see you next time. We are going to use Pythagoras' theorem to find one of the shorter sides of a triangle. So I'll see you next time for that. Bye for now.